The moment I see the text on her phone, my stomach drops. She left her phone on the counter while getting ready, and I catch the preview flash across the screen. Tonight's the night. Can't wait to see you. She doesn't even bother locking her phone anymore, assuming I'm too trusting or too stupid to check. My hand trembles as I unlock it, scrolling through a thread that confirms everything I've been suspecting for months. The words sting. He won't suspect a thing. Meet you at the usual spot. Wear that dress I love. The usual spot. I don't even have to guess. It's the upscale bistro downtown, the one I've been trying to get reservations for on our anniversaries. But apparently, my wife has no trouble securing a table when it's for someone else. My throat tightens, but I force myself to stay calm. This isn't the time to lose my head. If she wants to play me for a fool, then I'll let her. For now. But tonight, I'll show her exactly what kind of fool I am. The clock ticks by in agonizing slowness. I go about the day like nothing's wrong, acting normal while my mind races with plans. By the time evening rolls around, I've rehearsed the entire confrontation in my head. She glides down the stairs in a dress I've never seen before. Sleek, black, clinging to her in ways that scream, "Look at me." She's wearing the perfume I bought her last Christmas. Ironic. The very scent I loved now makes my stomach churn. Heading out with the girls? I ask, keeping my tone even. She smiles, an expert liar, but not expert enough to fool me anymore. Yes, just a little get-together. Don't wait up. I nod, watching as she grabs her clutch and saunters out the door, her heels clicking against the tile. The second the door closes, I grab my jacket and follow, keeping enough distance to avoid suspicion. My heart pounds, anger simmering just beneath the surface. Tonight, I'm not just catching her. I'm ending this. I trail her car down the city streets, careful not to let her spot me. She drives with the kind of ease that only comes from having no shame. No guilt. It makes my blood boil, but I force myself to stay calm. The bistro looms ahead, glowing under soft, ambient lights. She pulls into the lot, steps out of the car, and checks her reflection in the window. She looks like she's ready to impress, but not for me. I park a block away and watch her strut through the entrance, hips swaying, head held high. She knows exactly what she's doing. I wait a few minutes before heading inside, my nerves taut as a wire. The hostess greets me with a polite smile. "Table for one?" she asks. "No, I'm meeting someone. I'll find my way," I reply. My voice is steady, but my pulse feels like a drumline in my ears. The place is packed with couples and small groups, the murmur of conversation blending with the clink of silverware. I spot her almost immediately. She's sitting in the far corner, leaning in toward a man I don't recognize. He's everything I'm not: flashy suit, designer watch, and an air of smugness that makes me want to wipe the smirk off his face. Her laughter rings out, louder than it should be. She's performing for him, her hand lightly touching his arm. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. The folder tucked under my arm feels heavier than it should. Inside is the divorce letter I had drawn up weeks ago, waiting for this moment. My lawyer warned me to handle it discreetly, but discretion isn't on the menu tonight. As I approach their table, her eyes catch mine. For a split second, I see panic flash across her face before she masks it with a too-wide smile. The man turns to me, confused but unbothered. "Hey, sweetheart," I say, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Mind if I join you?" The man leans back in his chair, his smug demeanor faltering. "Who's this?" "Oh, don't mind me," I say, pulling out the chair across from her. "I'm just the husband." Her face drains of color. "What are you doing here?" she hisses, her voice low enough not to cause a scene. She glances around nervously, probably hoping no one notices the man sitting at the table with her isn't me. "What am I doing here?" I repeat, my voice calm but cutting. I set the folder on the table and slide it toward her. "I thought I'd drop by and deliver this personally. Consider it my farewell gift." She looks down at the folder, her hands trembling as she opens it. Her lover glances over her shoulder, his expression morphing from confusion to discomfort. "Divorce papers," she whispers, her voice shaking. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," I reply, leaning forward. But don't worry. I'll let you finish your dinner before you sign. The room feels heavier, the ambient chatter fading into white noise. Her lover shifts uncomfortably in his seat, clearly regretting his life choices. I think I should go, he mutters, starting to rise. Oh no, you're staying, I snap, my voice sharp enough to freeze him mid-motion. You're part of this, after all. I'd hate for you to miss the grand finale. Her eyes dart between the two of us, tears welling up. Please, can we not do this here? She begs, her voice cracking. I lean back in my chair, crossing my arms. Why not? This seems like the perfect place. After all, you picked it. The tension at the table is so thick you could cut it with the steak knife sitting unused beside her plate. Her lover, now visibly sweating, looks like he's reconsidering his entire life. Good. He should. But my focus stays on her. Who is this guy? I ask, tilting my head toward him as if I don't already know. Friend? Colleague? Oh, wait, let me guess. Just someone who understands you better than I do. She flinches at the sarcasm, her hands clutching the divorce papers like they might burst into flames. It's not what you think, she whispers, her voice barely audible. I laugh, a cold, bitter sound that draws the attention of a couple at the next table. Not what I think. Enlighten me, then. What exactly am I interrupting here? A business meeting? A charity fundraiser? Or just dessert before the real fun begins? Her lover clears his throat, trying to regain some semblance of dignity. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She told me. She told you what? I interrupt, my voice sharp enough to cut him off. That she's in a complicated marriage? That I don't appreciate her? That I don't make her feel seen? I turn to her, my eyes narrowing. Is that what you said? Her eyes dart to the floor, unable to meet my gaze. That's all the confirmation I need. I feel the anger bubbling up, but I keep it in check. This isn't about losing control. It's about making my point, and making it hurt. Here's the thing, pal, I say, addressing her lover now. You didn't just sleep with someone's wife. You slept with mine. And as much as I'd love to make this your problem, tonight isn't about you. It's about her. She finally looks up, her face pale. Please, can we just go somewhere and talk about this? She pleads. Oh, we'll talk, I assure her. But right now, I want you to explain something to me and to him. I jab a finger in her lover's direction. Why? Why throw away everything we built for this? She opens her mouth, but no words come out. I see her struggling, trying to spin some excuse, some justification that doesn't exist. It's almost pathetic. Almost. I'll tell you why, I continue, filling the silence. Because it was easy. Because you thought I wouldn't notice. Because you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. I lean forward, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. Well, guess what? The bakery's closed. The restaurant is practically silent now, other diners pretending not to watch but failing miserably. Even the waitstaff has stopped in their tracks, trays suspended midair as they try to catch the drama unfolding at table 7. Her lover shifts uncomfortably, his face a mix of guilt and panic. Look, man, I'm sorry. I don't care what you meant, I snap, cutting him off. The damage is done. You're just the side note in this story. She's the one who made the vows. She's the one who broke them. I push my chair back, the legs scraping loudly against the floor. Enjoy the rest of your evening, I say, throwing a couple of bills on the table. Dinner's on me. Consider it a parting gift. As I turn to leave, she grabs my arm. Please, she says, tears streaming down her face. Don't do this. We can work this out. I pull my arm free, looking her straight in the eye. You already worked it out, I say coldly. You just didn't include me in the plan. And with that, I walk out of the restaurant, the weight of months of suspicion finally lifting as the cold night air hits my face. The walk to my car feels surreal, like I'm watching myself from the outside. The adrenaline is wearing off, leaving me with a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. I grip the steering wheel for a moment before starting the engine, letting out a deep breath. I should feel victorious, but instead, there's an ache in my chest that won't go away. As I drive home, my mind replays the scene over and over. Her tears, Her pathetic attempt to explain. The stunned look on her lover's face. It should be satisfying, but it isn't. I've ended it, severed the ties. But now I'm left with the pieces. And what am I supposed to do with them? When I pull into the driveway, the house feels emptier than usual. The living room light is still on, and her scent lingers in the air as I step inside. It's funny how little things, like the throw pillow she insists on keeping crooked or the mug she left on the counter, can suddenly feel like betrayals of their own. I drop onto the couch and stare at the ceiling. For years, this house was our sanctuary, the place where we built our life together. Now, it's just a reminder of how blind I was. How naive. My phone buzzes on the coffee table, snapping me out of my thoughts. It's her. Of course it is. She's called twice already, and now she's texting. Please come back. I'm sorry. Let's talk. Talk? The word feels meaningless. What's left to say? I leave the message unread and toss the phone aside. Let her stew in it for a while. I know I should feel angry, righteous, even, but instead, I feel hollow. Like the person I was when I walked into that restaurant stayed behind, leaving me with this empty shell. Hours pass and I'm still sitting there, lost in thought, when there's a knock at the door. It's late, too late for casual visitors. My stomach tightens as I stand and move toward the door, half expecting her to be on the other side. But it's not her. It's my best friend, Mike. Hey, he says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I figured you'd need a drink. He holds up a six-pack, and I manage a weak smile. Mike has a way of knowing exactly when I need him. How'd you know? I ask, collapsing back onto the couch. You didn't answer my text earlier. That's never a good sign, he says, popping the top off a bottle and handing it to me. Plus, I saw your car outside the bistro when I was driving home. Figured something went down? I take a long sip, letting the beer's bitterness distract me for a moment. You have no idea. Mike sits across from me, his eyes sharp and probing. So? Spill it. And I do. I tell him everything. The texts, the dinner, the confrontation. By the time I'm done, my bottle is empty, and so is my chest. Saying it out loud makes it feel even more real. Damn, Mike says, leaning back. I always thought she was a little too polished, you know? Like, trying too hard to sell the perfect wife act. I shake my head. You could have warned me. Would you have listened? Probably not. As the night stretches on, Mike stays, filling the silence with bad jokes and better advice. He talks about moving forward, about not letting her win by dragging this out. He says all the right things, but I can't stop wondering how long it'll take to actually believe him. When he finally leaves, the house feels a little less suffocating. I glance at my phone again. Another text from her. I'm staying at my sister's tonight. Please, let's fix this. I toss the phone aside again, too tired to think. There's no fixing this. Not now. Not ever. The morning sunlight streams through the window, stark and unforgiving, as I wake up on the couch. My neck aches from the awkward position, and for a moment, I forget why I'm not in the bedroom upstairs. Then it all comes rushing back, the bistro, the papers, her stunned face. I run a hand through my hair, exhaling sharply. This is my new reality now. I drag myself to the kitchen, the silence of the house pressing down on me. Her favorite coffee mug is still on the counter, the one I bought her last Christmas. For a second, I consider smashing it, but that feels like too much effort. Instead, I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit at the table, staring blankly at the wall. My phone buzzes again. I know it's her before I even look. Another text, another plea for understanding. Please, just let me explain. It wasn't what it looked like. I snort, shaking my head. It's exactly what it looked like. What else could it have been? A business dinner? A chance meeting with an old friend? She can spin it any way she likes, but the facts remain the same. She betrayed me. As I sip my coffee, I think about what comes next. The divorce papers are already in her hands, but there's still so much left to sort out. The house, the accounts, the things we've built together. It all feels exhausting, like climbing a mountain I didn't ask to scale. But I know there's no avoiding it. I pull up my lawyer's number and dial. He answers on the second ring, his voice crisp and professional. Good morning, Mr. Taylor. How can I help? I explain what happened last night, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. He listens carefully, occasionally asking questions. When I'm done, there's a pause. Well, he says finally, it sounds like you handled things cleanly. The papers are served, and as long as she doesn't contest anything, this should move forward smoothly. But if she pushes back, it could get messy. She's going to push back, I say, already resigned to it. She's not the type to let go quietly. Then we'll be ready, he assures me. Just remember, stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't engage emotionally. That's how we win. After I hang up, I sit there for a long time, the coffee growing cold in my hands. Winning. It's such a strange word to use for something like this. Even if I come out ahead in court, it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like survival. The day drags on, a haze of mundane tasks and quiet reflection. I clean the house, not because it needs it, but because it keeps me busy. I pack up some of her things, clothes, books, trinkets, and leave them by the door. If she's staying at her sister's, she can come by to get them when I'm not here. By evening, the house feels emptier than ever. I sit on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, wondering how I got here. How did we go from love and laughter to this cold, hollow silence? My phone buzzes again. This time, it's not her. It's Mike. Bar tonight? You need to get out of that house. I hesitate. The thought of going out, of pretending to be normal, feels overwhelming. But sitting here all night isn't helping either. I text back a simple, sure. As I grab my jacket and head out the door, I feel a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something better. The morning sunlight streams through the window, stark and unforgiving, as I wake up on the couch. My neck aches from the awkward position, and for a moment, I forget why I'm not in the bedroom upstairs. Then it all comes rushing back, the bistro, the papers, her stunned face. I run a hand through my hair, exhaling sharply. This is my new reality now. I drag myself to the kitchen, the silence of the house pressing down on me. Her favorite coffee mug is still on the counter, the one I bought her last Christmas. For a second, I consider smashing it, but that feels like too much effort. Instead, I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit at the table, staring blankly at the wall. My phone buzzes again. I know it's her before I even look. Another text, another plea for understanding. Please, just let me explain. It wasn't what it looked like. I snort, shaking my head. It's exactly what it looked like. What else could it have been? A business dinner? A chance meeting with an old friend? She can spin it any way she likes, but the facts remain the same. She betrayed me. As I sip my coffee, I think about what comes next. The divorce papers are already in her hands, but there's still so much left to sort out. The house, the accounts, the things we've built together. It all feels exhausting, like climbing a mountain I didn't ask to scale. But I know there's no avoiding it. I pull up my lawyer's number and dial. He answers on the second ring, his voice crisp and professional. Good morning, Mr. Taylor. How can I help? I explain what happened last night, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. He listens carefully, occasionally asking questions. When I'm done, there's a pause. Well, he says finally, it sounds like you handled things cleanly. The papers are served, and as long as she doesn't contest anything, this should move forward smoothly. But if she pushes back, it could get messy. She's going to push back, I say, already resigned to it. She's not the type to let go quietly. Then we'll be ready, he assures me. Just remember, stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't engage emotionally. That's how we win. After I hang up, I sit there for a long time, the coffee growing cold in my hands. Winning. It's such a strange word to use for something like this. Even if I come out ahead in court, it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like survival. The day drags on, a haze of mundane tasks and quiet reflection. I clean the house, not because it needs it, but because it keeps me busy. I pack up some of her things, clothes, books, trinkets, and leave them by the door. If she's staying at her sister's, she can come by to get them when I'm not here. By evening, the house feels emptier than ever. I sit on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, wondering how I got here. How did we go from love and laughter to this cold, hollow silence? My phone buzzes again. This time, It's not her. It's Mike. Bar tonight? You need to get out of that house. I hesitate. The thought of going out, of pretending to be normal, feels overwhelming. But sitting here all night isn't helping either. I text back a simple, sure. As I grab my jacket and head out the door, I feel a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something better. The bar is louder than I expected, the hum of conversation and clinking glasses almost drowning out the music playing in the background. It's a spot Mike and I used to frequent in our younger days, before life got complicated. Back when problems could be drowned in a beer or two, and the world felt less heavy. Mike is already at a high-top table near the back, waving me over with a grin. He looks relaxed, as if he doesn't have a care in the world. I envy him for that. You look like hell, he says as I slide into the chair across from him. But don't worry, by the time I'm done with you, you'll forget all about her. I force a smirk. Doubtful. He pushes a beer toward me, and I take a sip, the cold bitterness settling uncomfortably in my stomach. Mike starts talking. Stories about his coworkers, a funny thing that happened at work, his latest adventures in online dating. I nod along, grateful for the distraction, even if my mind isn't fully in it. About halfway through my second beer, Mike leans forward, his expression turning serious. You know, this isn't the end of the world, he says. Feels like it, sure, but it's not. You're better off without her. Better off? I echo, my voice dripping with skepticism. Yeah, I'm really living the dream over here. He chuckles, shaking his head. No, I mean it. She did you a favor. Now you can move on. Find someone who actually deserves you. The idea of moving on feels impossible, like trying to run a marathon with a broken leg. But I don't say that. Instead, I shrug and take another sip of beer. As the night wears on, the bar gets busier, the air thick with the smell of spilled drinks and faint traces of cheap cologne. Mike, ever the social butterfly, strikes up a conversation with the group at the next table. Before I know it, we're all talking, laughing, even playing a round of darts. It feels good, in a strange way, to be around people, to forget, even for a little while, about the mess waiting for me at home. One of the women at the next table, a brunette with a quick smile and an easy laugh, asks me about my job. I tell her I work in finance, and she nods appreciatively, asking just enough follow-up questions to keep the conversation flowing. Her name is Rachel. She's funny, smart, and entirely too good at darts. For the first time in what feels like forever, I catch myself smiling, really smiling. It's not much, but it's a start. By the time Mike and I leave the bar, the streets are quiet, the cool night air a welcome relief from the warmth inside. We stand by his car, and he claps a hand on my shoulder. See, he says with a grin. Told you it wasn't the end of the world. I nod, though I'm not entirely convinced. Thanks, Mike. For tonight. Anytime, man. And hey, if you ever want to get out of that house again, just call me. As I drive home, the night's events replay in my mind. For the first time in days, I don't feel completely weighed down by everything. There's still a long road ahead, but maybe, just maybe, I'll survive this after all. The house is dark and still when I walk through the door. The emptiness greets me like an old friend, but tonight it feels a little less suffocating. Maybe it's the alcohol, or maybe it's the small dose of normalcy I found at the bar. Either way, I don't hate being here as much as I did yesterday. I drop my jacket on the couch and head to the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water to counter the buzz from the beers. As I drink, my eyes land on the pile of her things by the door. Her absence feels tangible, like a shadow lingering in the corners of the room. But instead of sadness, I feel a strange sense of relief. Like the weight of pretending everything was fine has finally lifted. My phone buzzes on the counter, the screen lighting up with her name. Another text. I sigh and pick it up, hesitating for a moment before opening it. Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but I love you. Don't throw everything away. Her words stir something in me. Not regret, but anger. Love? If she loved me, she wouldn't have been at that table with him. She wouldn't have lied, wouldn't have betrayed me. Love isn't just words, it's actions. And her actions spoke volumes. I type out a response before I can second-guess myself. You already threw it away. Don't contact me unless it's about the divorce. I hit send and set the phone down, feeling a small surge of satisfaction. Boundaries. For once, I'm the one setting them. The next morning, I wake to the sound of my phone buzzing again. This time, it's not her. It's my lawyer. "Good morning, Mr. Taylor," he says, his tone brisk. "Just wanted to update you. I've sent over the financial disclosure forms for you to review. Once those are finalized, we can proceed with filing the official petition." "Thanks," I say, sitting up and rubbing the sleep from my eyes. "Anything I need to do in the meantime?" "Just keep records of any communication with her. If she contests the divorce or makes things difficult, we'll need a clear timeline." I hang up feeling slightly overwhelmed, but also determined. This is the next step, the start of something new. I spend the day going through the forms, the legal jargon making my head spin, splitting assets, outlining debts, calculating alimony. It all feels so clinical, so cold. But it's necessary. Each signature, each initial feels like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. By the time I finish, I feel drained, but also lighter. It's like shedding old skin, painful but freeing. Mike texts me in the afternoon, asking if I want to grab lunch, but I decline. I need some time to myself to process everything. Instead, I go for a walk around the neighborhood. The crisp air clears my head, and for the first time in weeks, I feel a sliver of peace. When I get back, there's an email waiting for me from my lawyer. Attached is a draft of the finalized petition. It's real now. Final. I stare at the screen for a long time before replying. Looks good. Let's move forward. As night falls, I sit on the couch with a glass of whiskey, staring out the window. The road ahead is still uncertain, but for the first time, I feel like I have control over it. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I won't let her define me anymore. The next few days pass in a haze of paperwork, phone calls, and awkward silences. Each morning, I wake up to an empty house and try to fill the hours with tasks that keep my mind occupied. I clean out the garage, sort through old boxes, and even rearrange the furniture in the living room. It's strange how mundane activities can feel like acts of defiance. Each small change feels like reclaiming a piece of myself from the ruins she left behind. Her texts have stopped, which is both a relief and a frustration. Part of me wanted her to fight harder, to give me some tangible reason to lash out. But the silence leaves a void, and I find myself wondering what she's thinking, where she is, and if she's with him. I shake the thought away each time it creeps in, forcing myself to focus on what's ahead. One afternoon, as I'm sorting through a stack of mail, I come across a card addressed to both of us. It's from a mutual friend, a belated invitation to a dinner party we were supposed to attend together. For a moment, I consider ignoring it, but then an idea forms. Why not go? It's a chance to show that I'm moving on, even if I'm not quite there yet. When I text Mike about it, he responds almost immediately. "You should definitely go. I'll be your wingman if you need backup." The thought of walking into a room full of people who probably know everything makes my stomach churn, but I agree. Maybe this is exactly what I need. A chance to prove, to myself more than anyone, that I can start over. The night of the party, I stand in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie for the third time. The suit feels stiff, like it belongs to someone else. I don't remember the last time I dressed up like this, but it feels important, like armor for the battle ahead. When I arrive at the house, the sounds of laughter and music spill out onto the driveway. My chest tightens as I ring the doorbell, but when the door opens, I'm greeted with warm smiles and friendly faces. Mike is already inside, a drink in hand, and he waves me over with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announces loudly, "the man of the hour has arrived." I roll my eyes but can't help smiling. The room feels less intimidating with Mike there, his easy charm cutting through the tension. As the evening unfolds, I find myself relaxing, even enjoying the conversation. People ask how I'm doing, their questions careful and kind, and I manage to answer without flinching. For the first time in a long time, I feel almost normal. Near the end of the night, one of the hosts pulls me aside. "I just want to say," she begins, her voice low and sincere, "you're handling this with so much grace. Not everyone could." Her words catch me off guard, and I struggle to find a response. Grace isn't what I feel, but maybe it's what I'm projecting. And maybe that's enough for now. When I leave the party, the cool night air feels refreshing, like a small victory. I survived. More than that, I took a step forward. It's not much, but it's a start. The morning after the party, I wake up with a strange sense of accomplishment. It's been weeks since I felt anything close to pride, but something about last night, walking into that room, holding my head high, feels like a step in the right direction. I make coffee and sit by the window, watching the sunlight spill across the backyard. For the first time in weeks, the silence of the house feels peaceful rather than oppressive. As I sip my coffee, my phone buzzes on the counter. I expect another message from Mike or maybe a follow-up from one of the people at the party, but when I check the screen, my stomach twists. It's her. Her message is short, just 3 words. Can we talk? I stare at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wants to ignore her, to let the silence speak for itself. But another part, a quieter, more conflicted part, wants answers. I need to understand why she did this, why she threw everything away. Against my better judgment, I type out a response. What's there to talk about? Her reply comes almost instantly. Everything. Please. Just one conversation. I set the phone down, the coffee now cold in my hands. What could she possibly say to make any of this better? But as much as I want to move on, I know I won't get closure until I face her. My mind wrestles with the decision for hours, and by the time I text her back, the sun is high in the sky. Fine. One conversation. Tonight at 7. Her response is immediate. Thank you. I don't respond. The rest of the day feels like a countdown, each passing hour heavier than the last. By the time the clock strikes 7, I'm sitting on the couch, my heart pounding as I wait for the knock on the door. When it comes, it's softer than I expected, hesitant. I take a deep breath and open the door. She's standing there, looking smaller than I remember, her usual confidence replaced by something closer to shame. Her eyes meet mine, and for a moment, neither of us speaks. Come in, I say finally, stepping aside. She walks past me, her perfume faint but familiar. It stirs something in me, a mix of longing and resentment, but I push it down. I can't afford to feel anything for her anymore. We sit across from each other in the living room, the space between us heavy with unspoken words. She fidgets with the hem of her sweater, avoiding my gaze. I don't even know where to start, she says finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Try the truth, I reply, my tone sharper than I intended. Her eyes fill with tears, but I don't let myself feel sorry for her. She made this mess. Now she has to face it. She takes a shaky breath, her hands twisting in her lap. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she begins. I never meant to hurt you. I lean back, crossing my arms. And yet, here we are. She flinches at my words but presses on. I wasn't happy, okay? I didn't feel like myself anymore. I felt invisible. Invisible? I repeat, my voice thick with disbelief. Is that supposed to justify what you did? Sneaking around, lying, betraying me? Her shoulders slump, and she finally looks up, her eyes glistening. No, nothing justifies it. I was selfish. I didn't think about how much I'd hurt you. Selfish is an understatement. I snap. The anger that's been simmering for weeks starts to boil over. You didn't think about me at all, did you? Or about what we built together? Our life. Our marriage. I did think about it, she insists, her voice rising. I thought about it all the time. That's why I kept telling myself it wasn't a big deal, that it didn't mean anything. I laugh, a bitter sound that fills the room. Didn't mean anything? That's rich. It meant enough for you to risk everything. Or did you think I wouldn't find out? Her lips tremble, and a tear slides down her cheek. I don't know what I thought. I wasn't thinking straight. I was just lost. Lost? I shake my head. No. Lost is what you've left me. Lost is waking up every day and wondering how I could have been so blind. How I could have loved someone who could do this. The words hit her like a slap, and for a moment, she doesn't say anything. The silence stretches between us, heavy and suffocating. I don't want to lose you, she whispers finally. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I need you to know that I love you. I always have. Her words hang in the air, but they don't bring the comfort she's hoping for. Instead, they feel like salt in an open wound. I shake my head slowly, my chest tight. Love isn't enough, I say quietly. Not anymore. Her face crumples, and she buries it in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. For a brief moment, I feel a pang of sympathy, but it's fleeting. I remind myself that she's crying for herself, for what she's lost, not for me. I think you should go, I say, standing up and moving toward the door. My voice is steady, but inside, I'm trembling. She looks up at me, her eyes red and desperate. Please, she whispers, don't do this. Don't give up on us. There is no us, I reply, my tone firm. Not anymore. She doesn't fight me. Slowly, she stands and walks to the door, her steps heavy. I open it for her, and she pauses on the threshold, turning to look at me one last time. I'm sorry, she says, her voice breaking, for everything. I nod, but I don't say anything. There's nothing left to say. When the door closes behind her, the silence returns, thicker than ever. But this time, it feels different. Not like a weight, but like a void. It's not comforting, but it's mine. I sit back down on the couch, staring at the spot where she sat just moments ago. My chest feels hollow, but there's a flicker of something else, relief. This is the end of something, but it's also the beginning of something new. The house feels impossibly quiet after she leaves, like the walls themselves are holding their breath. I sit there for a long time, staring at nothing, replaying the conversation in my head. Her words echo in the silence, but they don't hurt the way they used to. Maybe I've finally run out of tears, or maybe I'm just numb. Either way, I don't feel broken anymore, just tired. Eventually, I force myself off the couch and into the kitchen. The pile of her things by the door catches my eye, and I feel a strange sense of closure. She left more than just clothes and books behind. She left the weight of her lies, her betrayals. And with every hour that passes, I feel that weight lifting. I grab a box and start packing her things properly. It feels good to take action, to reclaim the space that's been suffocating me. By the time I finish, the box is taped shut and ready for her to collect. A clean break. The rest of the evening passes in a blur of small tasks. I cook dinner, something simple but satisfying, and for the first time in weeks, I actually enjoy it. I even put on music, nothing dramatic, just an old playlist I haven't touched in years. It's amazing how comforting the familiar can be. Later, as I sit by the window with a book in hand, I catch myself smiling. It's not much, just a small tug at the corners of my mouth, but it's there. And for the first time, I feel like maybe I'll be okay. The next morning, I wake up early, the sunlight streaming through the blinds. Instead of dragging myself through the motions, I get up with purpose. Today feels different, lighter. Over coffee, I make a list of things I've been putting off, small goals to keep me moving forward. Fix the squeaky door hinge. Sort through the attic. Start running again. They're not life-changing tasks, but they're enough to give me a sense of control. As the day unfolds, I check off each item on the list, one by one. The sense of accomplishment is small but significant, like laying the foundation for something bigger. By the time evening rolls around, I feel more like myself than I have in weeks. When my phone buzzes, it's Mike, of course. Game night at my place. You in? I hesitate for a moment, then text back, I'll bring the snacks. It feels good to say yes, to step back into the world, even if it's just for a few hours. As I grab my keys and head out the door, I realize I'm not just moving on, I'm moving forward. And for the first time, it feels like I'm the one in control. Mike's place is alive with energy when I arrive. The familiar sounds of laughter and clinking glasses spill out into the driveway as I make my way to the door, a bag of chips and a six-pack in hand. It's not a fancy gathering, just a few friends, a table cluttered with snacks, and a game of cards already in progress. But it feels like exactly what I need. Look who decided to show up. Mike calls from the kitchen, raising a bottle and greeting. Thought you'd flake on me. Not tonight, I reply, setting the snacks on the counter. Someone's gotta keep you honest. The room erupts in laughter as I join the group, the tension of the past few weeks melting away. The banter is easy, the game lighthearted. For the first time in what feels like forever, I let myself relax. No overthinking, no dwelling on the past. Just a night of normalcy with people who remind me that life goes on. At one point, a friend I haven't seen in months pulls me aside. "Hey, have you been holding up?" he asks, his voice low. I hesitate, but only for a moment. "Better than I thought I'd be," I say honestly. "It's been rough, but I'm getting there." He nods, clapping me on the shoulder. "Good to hear. You deserve better, man. Don't forget that." The words stick with me for the rest of the night, echoing in the back of my mind as the hours pass. By the time the game ends and everyone starts heading home, I feel lighter than I have in weeks. As I drive home, the city lights flickering past the windows, I realize something important. For the first time since this all began, I'm not just surviving, I'm starting to live again. The house is quiet when I walk in, but it doesn't feel as empty as it used to. I pour myself a glass of water and sit at the kitchen table, reflecting on the night. The laughter, the camaraderie, the sense of belonging. It's all still there, warming me from the inside out. Before heading to bed, I glance at the box of her things by the door. It doesn't hurt to look at it anymore. It's just a box, a relic of the past. Tomorrow, I'll make arrangements for her to pick it up, and that chapter will finally be closed. I sleep soundly for the first time in weeks, the weight of the past finally starting to lift. When the morning comes, it brings with it a sense of clarity. This is my life now, and it's mine to rebuild. The next morning, sunlight streams through the windows, and for once, it feels more like a fresh start than a reminder of everything I've lost. I glance at the box of her things by the door, still taped shut and ready to go. It's time to move forward, one step at a time. Over breakfast, I draft a quick message to her. It's brief, to the point, and devoid of any emotional entanglements. "Your things are ready for pickup. Let me know when you can come by, and I'll make sure I'm not here." I read it over once, then hit send. A few minutes later, her reply comes through. "Thank you. I'll be there around 2. There's no apology, no attempt to rekindle the conversation we had just days ago. Just those 2 simple sentences. It's better this way, I tell myself, clean and final. As the hours tick by, I busy myself with anything that keeps my hands and mind occupied. I tackle the attic, sorting through boxes I haven't opened in years. Some of the items bring back fond memories, others not so much. Each object feels like a piece of a puzzle I'm slowly rearranging, a puzzle that no longer includes her. When the clock nears 2, I grab my keys and head out. There's no reason to be here when she comes. I don't want to see her face or hear her voice. I've said everything I needed to say, and I refuse to be dragged back into the mess she created. I drive aimlessly for a while, ending up at a park on the edge of town. It's quiet here, the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. I sit on a bench, watching joggers and dog walkers pass by. There's something comforting about their obliviousness, as if the world is still turning, no matter how much mine has changed. My phone buzzes around 2:30. Her message is simple. "I got everything. Thank you." I exhale, a slow, steady release of tension I didn't even realize I was holding. It's done. She's gone. The physical traces of her are no longer in the house, and with that, the final thread connecting us has been cut. I stay at the park for a while longer, letting the realization sink in. This is it, the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It's scary, but it's also liberating. For the first time, I feel like I can truly start over. When I finally head home, the house feels different. Lighter, freer, like it's mine again. I don't even notice the silence this time. Instead, I embrace it. It's a blank slate, a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. The house feels almost unrecognizable now. With her belongings gone, it's as if a fog has lifted, leaving behind a space that's distinctly mine. The emptiness doesn't feel like loss anymore. It feels like possibility. For the first time in weeks, I'm not looking at this place as a reminder of what was, but as a canvas for what could be. I start making small changes, beginning with the bedroom. The bedding she picked out, The delicate florals I always hated. Gets folded up and replaced with something simple, something I chose. I rearrange the furniture, swapping the sides of the bed, the dresser, even the nightstands. By the time I'm done, the room feels entirely new, a space that belongs to me and no one else. The rest of the house follows suit. I clear out the kitchen drawers, tossing utensils and gadgets I never liked but kept because she insisted we needed them. I rearrange the living room, moving the couch to face the window instead of the TV. Small changes, but they make a difference. With each adjustment, I feel more in control, more at home. In the process, I discover things I'd forgotten. Old photographs, trinkets from past vacations, a box of handwritten notes from my parents. They remind me of who I was before all of this, before her. A man who had his own dreams, his own identity. It's bittersweet, but mostly it's empowering. I'm still that man, even if I lost sight of him for a while. As the sun sets, I sit in my newly rearranged living room, a beer in hand, and take it all in. It's not perfect, but it's mine, and that's enough. The next day, I wake up early, filled with a strange sense of purpose. I lace up my running shoes, shoes that haven't seen the light of day in months, and head out for a jog. The air is cool and crisp, the early morning streets quiet. My legs protest at first, but I push through, letting the rhythm of my steps and the steady beat of my heart clear my mind. By the time I get home, I'm drenched in sweat, but I feel alive in a way I haven't in ages. Running was always my way of centering myself, of finding clarity when life got too loud. I realize how much I've missed it, how much I've missed taking care of myself. As I stretch on the porch, Mike pulls up in his car, grinning as he steps out. "Look at you, getting all healthy and stuff," he teases. "Trying to keep up with you," I shoot back, grabbing a towel from inside. He follows me in, looking around the house with raised eyebrows. "Damn, man, this place looks good. Like, really good." "Thanks," I say, a small smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. Figured it was time for a change. He nods, settling onto the couch. "Change looks good on you." We spend the rest of the afternoon catching up, talking about everything and nothing. It's easy, comfortable, like old times. By the time he leaves, I feel lighter, more certain that I'm on the right path. That night, as I lie in bed, I think about the road ahead. It's still uncertain, still full of challenges, but it doesn't scare me the way it used to. For the first time in a long time, I feel ready for whatever comes next. The next week unfolds quietly, but not without purpose. With her gone, I filled my time with things I hadn't done in years, projects I'd put off, hobbies I abandoned. The rhythm of my days is mine now, no longer dictated by someone else's needs or moods. It feels strange but good, like slipping into a pair of shoes you'd forgotten fit perfectly. One morning, while cleaning out the attic, I come across an old sketchbook. It's buried under a pile of dusty photo albums and forgotten holiday decorations. I flip it open and am greeted by pages of detailed drawings, landscapes, buildings, even a few portraits. The sight stirs something deep within me. I used to draw all the time, back when life was simpler. It was my escape, my way of processing the world. But somewhere along the way, I stopped. The demands of work, marriage, and life pushed it aside, until it became just another forgotten piece of who I was. I sit cross-legged on the attic floor, flipping through the pages, each drawing like a window into the past. By the time I reach the last page, I've made a decision. I'm going to start again. That evening, I head to the art store and pick up supplies, a sketchpad, pencils, and a set of charcoal. The cashier smiles as she rings me up, asking if I'm an artist. The question catches me off guard, but I nod. "Not yet," I say, "but I'm getting there." Back home, I set up a small workspace in the corner of the living room. It's nothing fancy, a folding table, a lamp, and a chair, but it feels right. For the first time in years, I let the pencil glide across the page, the familiar sensation grounding me. At first, it's clumsy, the lines shaky and uneven. But as the hours pass, it starts to come back, like muscle memory. The house is quiet. The only sounds the soft scratch of pencil on paper and the occasional creak of the floorboards. By the time I put the pencil down, The sketch pad is filled with something that looks like me. Not perfect, not polished, but real, honest. When I step back and look at it, I feel a small swell of pride. It's just a beginning, but it's mine. And for the first time, I feel like I'm not just surviving, I'm building something. The next day, I wake up with a renewed sense of energy. My run feels easier, my breakfast tastes better, even the coffee has a little extra kick. It's amazing how small victories can shift your entire perspective. I start sketching every evening, letting the rhythm of it soothe my mind and steady my heart. Mike stops by one afternoon, catching me mid-sketch. He looks over my shoulder and whistles. "Damn, man, you're good." "Just getting back into it," I say, shrugging, but I can't help the grin that spreads across my face. "You should do something with this," he says, gesturing to the half-finished drawing in front of me. "Put it out there. Share it." The thought scares me, but it also excites me. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's time to stop hiding, to take what I'm rebuilding and let the world see it. As the days turn into weeks, the sketchpad fills up, page after page of new beginnings. And with each one, I feel a little more like myself, stronger, freer, ready for whatever comes next. It's a Saturday morning when I finally feel the shift. The sun is shining through the living room window, illuminating the workspace I've built in the corner. My sketchpad is open to a drawing I finished the night before, a landscape of the park where I sat after she picked up her things. The lines are clean, the details sharp. It's not just a drawing, it's a memory, one that no longer stings the way it once did. I flip through the pages of the sketchpad, marveling at how much I've created in such a short time. Each drawing feels like a step forward, a piece of myself reclaimed. Mike's words echo in my mind. Put it out there. Share it. The idea still scares me, but it also excites me. Maybe it's time. I take a deep breath and grab my phone, snapping photos of a few sketches. With a few clicks, I create a new social media account, one where I can share this side of myself without fear or hesitation. The first post is simple, a photo of the landscape sketch with the caption, "Starting over, one page at a time." Within minutes, comments start rolling in. Encouraging words from strangers, a few likes from old friends who must have stumbled across the account. It's a small thing, but it feels monumental. For the first time in months, I feel connected, not to her, not to the past, but to the possibilities of the future. That afternoon, I head back to the park where I first started to feel free. The crisp air fills my lungs as I walk the familiar paths, sketchpad in hand. This time, I'm not running away from anything. I'm walking towards something new. I find a bench near the edge of the lake and sit down, the sounds of birds and rustling leaves surrounding me. As I start to sketch, I notice a woman sitting on a nearby bench, reading a book. She glances up and catches my eye, offering a small smile before returning to her pages. It's a simple moment, but it feels significant. A reminder that the world is still full of possibilities, of connections waiting to be made. By the time the sun dips low in the sky, my sketch is complete. It's a drawing of the lake, the reflections of the trees shimmering on the water's surface. I close the sketchpad and lean back, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment. When I return home, the house no longer feels like a place of loss. It feels like mine, a space filled with potential, with dreams I'm starting to rediscover. The divorce is still looming, the details still to be finalized, but the weight of it no longer crushes me. It's just one more step in the process of moving forward. That night, as I sit by the window, the city lights twinkling in the distance, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for a future without her, but for a future that's mine. A future that's brighter, stronger, and entirely my own. The road ahead is still uncertain, but for the first time, I'm not afraid of it. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, one step, one sketch, one day at a time. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to rebuild your life from the ground up? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you overcame your challenges and started anew. Don't forget to like this story and subscribe for more tales of resilience, justice, and second chances. Together, we can inspire others to find their strength and embrace new beginnings.